Go ahead, Mike.
Mike Neff from FrontStretch.com. Kurt, we all know that from time to time you get a little disappointed in how your car performs, and you tend to be rather colorful about explaining that to your crew chief. And then you go on to win the race tonight. Can you give us just an idea of what it was like to have that emotional swing from the end of segment 3 where you thought you were complete and total junk to standing in victory lane getting beer thrown all over you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people make a big commotion about my radio or even my little brother's radio and how PC it isn't. But to me, it paints a picture to my crew chief to let him know how bad the car is on a scale of 1 to 10. And it was a 10 tight. Did we change a thing? No. So it was very confusing. And when you're sitting there with a competitive car that won the first segment, that was in the middle of the mix for segment 2, and segment 3 turns to squash like it did, you're seeing millions of dollars go out the window. And it's like, man, what did we do wrong? We didn't change anything on the setup. And so you don't lose focus. It makes me drive harder to try to find every tenth of a second that I can to make our car as fast as it can be on the racetrack. And it's a motivational thing for me, I think, and it gets misconstrued by a lot of other people.
Go ahead, Steve.
Steve Richards with PRN. Kurt, could you just talk about your emotions when you took the checkered flag and then around the cool-down lap?
Yeah, a big moment, with getting the checkered flag at an all-star race. To have $1 million put up by Sprint, I've got to thank them for that opportunity to win $1 million. It's I think the biggest payday I've ever gotten. I finished second at the Daytona 500 before, and it's a really neat check when it comes in the mail. Getting the lead during the final 10 lap segment, that was the biggest moment for me in the race. I was like, whoa, this is it, man. This is you. You got it all on the line. You got a 4-time champion chasing you. You've got one of the hottest drivers on the circuit running you down with the 11 car. And to hold those guys off, to put up a fight, and to get back to that feel of knocking down good lap times and having a car to do it with, brought back memories of my 04 season, especially when I got to victory lane and I had that huge champagne bottle. I almost dropped it when I won the championship years ago. Tonight, we wore that thing out.
Anything else for Kurt? Got one right there, and then we'll come up to Jared.
Dick Cox with CoxSportsBroadcasting.com. Going into the final restart with 2 laps to go, what were your thoughts?
One of my thoughts was, are we in green-white checker mode? Are we to the point to where, these are counting for the 3 green-white checkers? I put that out of my mind. I just said, hey, doesn't matter how many restarts there are, you're going to have to win them all. And with different competitors on my inside, whether it was Johnson, whether it was Logano, I just tried to not slip a tire. I tried to put down the best traction that I could and get through the gears as smooth as I could, no matter who the challenger was. And, it reminds me a little bit of the drag racing that I've been doing, trying to get reaction times and trying not to slip tires and try to get the whole shot. And I always like to just revert back to people that have coached me through my career, whether it's been my dad, whether it's been my first car owner in Southwest Tour, even Jack Roush, Roger Penske, or even a guy named Roy Hill when I went to his drag racing school, and he's not even paying me to say all this. So it's really neat just to put it all together to win these races. So one bummer thing that I learned is in victory lane, Mike Helton told me, he says, this was Groundhog Day. We weren't even in the green-white checker zone yet because it was lap 98. So we could have had another lap and then had more restarts. But the problem is once the leader takes the white flag on the green conditions, the race is confirmed. So there's no way we were going to get into that groundhog zone that Mike Helton was talking about, but I don't want to second-guess Mike Helton.
Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, Jared Turner, SpeedTV.com. Kurt, Martin Truex kind of came out of nowhere to finish second. How aware were you of his progress, especially in light of his win in the showdown, and did you see him sort of come in there on the last lap?
Yeah, it's amazing watching the guys come out of the showdown and getting up into the front leader pack towards the end of these all-star races. It happened with Kane. Michael Waltrip was the first one to do it many years ago. And I'm missing somebody that advanced through the Open and to win the bad boy. You have to watch out for those guys because they got an extra 40 laps of track time. They were able to make shock adjustments during their break before the big show. And you can never count anybody out. You can't You can't count anybody as being a soft competitor in this All-Star race because everybody that's in it deserves to be in it.
Any further questions for our champion, Kurt Busch? Got one way in the back. Can we bring Mr. Creekmore a microphone?
Hey, Kurt, I've watched you this year in several different situations. Is this, with this victory, is this shaping up to be one of your best years in racing ever because of all the different types of racing that you're doing?
It's been a great start for us. What I've struggled with a little bit is just the hot and coldness of it, and the cold times I can't quite define just yet. But, we'll run third at Darlington one week, and then we'll back it up with blowing out right front tires at Dover the next week. Goodyear changes the tires quite often these days with the car tomorrow, and some racetracks it comes into our favor, other racetracks it doesn't. Tracks we expected to do well on this year, we've struggled. Tracks that we've struggled on in years past, perfect example here at Charlotte tonight, we run well on. I can't quite figure that out. But, we're going to throw the best effort that we can at it to understand what a win tonight can bring us. Momentum is at an all-time high with our group to win here at Charlotte, and with a completely different setup that we had in the race car. That's the most refreshing part about it. So a big night for Miller Lite and for Dodge, for everybody at Penske, and we'll continue just to keep plugging away. Right now we're ninth in points. We're a little bit further behind than where we want to be, so we got to build some consistency back in it.
Go ahead, Jim.
Jim Otter, Charlotte Observer. Kurt, continuing on that line of thought, put aside for a moment the $1 million that you won. The fact that you performed so well at Charlotte tonight, does that give you kind of a better picture going into the 600? As you talked about, it's been a place where you've struggled in the past.
Yeah, again, it's interesting. On some of the tracks we expect to do well on, we struggled, and then tonight to have a successful run, even early on, to win the first segment and then to bring it home for the $1 million. Pushing all that aside, with this setup, we feel very comfortable going into the 600. We have to pace ourselves for the daytime, then get into nightfall, and see how things play out for us. It's a tough series right now. Last year we finished 4th overall, and I knew that the RCR cars were going to be stronger, and I knew that the Roush cars were going to be stronger. And right now we've got 5 cars that are ahead of us that weren't that strong last year. So that moves us from 4th to 9th. We're going to have to continue to fight harder and get ourselves up in that mix with the Gibbs guys and those Hendrick guys week in and week out.
Anything else for Kurt Busch? Kurt, thank you very much. And again, congratulations on winning the NASCAR Sprint All-Star Race.
Thank you so much.